The .76 is a Soviet amphibious light tank which was introduced in the early 1950s and soon became the standard reconnaissance tank of the Soviet Army and the other Warsaw Pact armed forces. It was widely exported to other friendly states, like India, Iraq, Syria, North Korea and North Vietnam. Overall, some 25 countries used the PT-76. The tank's full name is Floating Tanker Euro 76. 76 stands for the caliber of the main armament, the 76.2 mm D56T series rifled tank gun. The .76 is used in the reconnaissance and fire support roles. Its chassis served as the basis for a number of other vehicle designs, many of them amphibious, including the BTR-50 armored personal carrier, the ZSU-23-4 self-propelled anti-aircraft gun, the ASU-85 airborne self-propelled gun and the 2K-12 Cub anti-aircraft missile launch vehicle. Development. After World War II, the concept of light tanks was resurrected in the USSR. They were to be used in reconnaissance units and therefore an amphibious ability was essential. The requirements stated that the vehicle should be able to cross water obstacles with little preparation. Many prototypes of such light tanks were built in the late 1940s. The most successful was Orbi X-740 designed by the engineer N. Shashmurin working at the VNI 100 Institute in Leningrad in 1949–1950, under an initial supervision of Z.H. Kontin from Kirov plant. The vehicle was successful because it had a simple design, good navigational traits and a good cross-country capability. At the time, its water jet design was innovative. A prototype was built at Kirov plant in 1950 and the tank was officially adopted on August 6, 1951 with the designation PT-76. Production started at the Stalingrad tractor factory. The tank was subsequently modified. In 1957 a gun D56T was replaced with D56TM with double baffle muzzle brake and fume extractor. The hull was raised by 13 cm, and the tank was equipped with new vision and communications devices. First series tanks were subsequently modified, receiving D56TM gun and new equipment. In 1959 an improved variant, the PT-76B, was adopted and remained in production until 1967. Design. The .76 has a typical tank layout, the steering compartment at the front, the combat compartment in the center and the engine compartment at the back. The tank has a three-man crew, with the commander also acting as the radio operator and gunner. This reduces his effectiveness as an observer. The commander and loader stations are located inside the turret, the commander sits on the left-hand side of the main gun and the loader sits on the right. They have a large oval-shaped double hatch which opens forwards on top of the turret. The driver sits in the center of the front of the hull and is a one-piece hatch that opens to the right, with 3 vision blocks and periscopes located beneath the main gun at the top of the sloping glacis plate. Under the driver's seat there is an emergency hatch which can be used by all crew members. At night the center periscope is swapped for a TVN-28 night vision device which gives the driver clear vision up to 60 meters. Armament. Its main armament consists of a 76.2 mm D56T series rifled tank gun which has an effective range of approximately 1,500 meters and a rate of fire of 6 to 8 rounds per minute. This gun is 42 calibers long. The .76 carries 40 rounds for its gun. A typical ammunition load consists of 24x OF-350 Frag HE, 4x subcaliber APT, 4x APT and 8x BK-350M heat rounds. The gun is mounted in an oval dish-type circular truncated cone turret with flat sloping sides which is mounted over the second, third, and fourth pair of road wheels. All .76s have a fume extractor for the main gun at the rear of the turret. The 7.62 mm SGMT coaxial medium machine gun comes with 1,000 rounds. This weapon has a maximum effective range of 1,000 meters in daylight while the vehicle is stationary, 400 to 500 meters in daylight while the vehicle is on the move and 600 meters at night. Maximum range is 1,500 meters. It can be fired in 2 to 10 round bursts and has a practical rate of fire of 250 rounds per minute and a cyclic rate of fire of 650 rounds per minute. From 1967 the machine gun was replaced with PKT of the same caliber. The main gun, considered light for a modern tank, can fire BM-354 PHVAP, sub-caliber APT, APT, BF-350 APIT and OF-350 Frag-HE rounds divisional gun, and is capable of penetrating the armor of APCs and other lightly armored vehicles. The commander gunner has a cupola on the left side of the double hatch. The cupola has the TPKU-2B observation device and 2 TNP-day periscopes and can be rotated 360 degrees by hand. The commander also has a 4x optical sight mounted to the left of the main armament and a TSHK-66 sight rangefinder. The loader has the Mk4 observation device mounted on the turret's roof in front of the hatch. Ammunition. The BM-354P high-velocity armor-piercing round has a maximum effective range of 650 meters by day and 600 meters at night. Its maximum aimed range is 1,060 meters. It can penetrate 127 ohm of armor at muzzle and 50 ohm at 1,000 meters. The armor-piercing round can pierce 60 ohm of armor inclined at 60 degrees from a range of 2,000 meters. The BK-350M high-explosive anti-tank or heat round has a maximum effective range of 650 meters by day and 600 meters at night. Its maximum range is 1,000 meters. It can penetrate 280 ohm of armor at 1,000 meters. The OF-350 Frag-HE round has a maximum effective range of 600 meters at night and a maximum range of 4,000 meters. The gun can be fired while the vehicle is afloat. The gun can also be depressed and elevated between -4 and +30 degrees, so like most Soviet tanks, the PT-76 has a limited ability to depress its main gun, and therefore can have difficulty finding a hull-down fire position on higher ground. One of the greatest disadvantages of the gun used on the PT-76 Model 1 was that it had no stabilization system and therefore couldn't be effectively fired while the vehicle was on the move. The .76 Model 2 has a one-axis stabilization system and the PT-76B has a two-axis system. Countermeasures. The armor of the PT-76 consists of homogeneous, cold-rolled, welded steel. Its turret has 20 ohm at 35 degree at the front, 16 ohm at 35 degree at the sides, 11 ohm at 33 degree at the rear and 8 ohm at 0 degree on top of the turret. The hull is made up of 10 ohm at 80 degree at the upper front, 13 ohm at 80 degree at the lower front, 14 ohm at 0 degree at the sides, 7 ohm at 0 degree in the rear and 5 ohm at 0 degree underneath. This gives it protection against 7.62 ohm small arms fire and small artillery shell fragments. It does not protect it against 12.7 ohm or .50 caliber heavy machine gun fire or larger shell fragments. Mobility, tactical. The torsion bar suspension consists of 6 evenly spaced large rubber-tired road wheels with the drive sprocket at the rear and the idler at the front. The road wheels are hollow to minimize weight. These hollow road wheels increase the tank's buoyancy by 30%. There are no track return rollers. The first and last road wheels have a hydraulic shock absorber and the steel tracks have 96 links, each one new. Each link has a single pin. There is a small, thin, horizontal skirt over each track. Its straight 6-cylinder, 4-stroke water-cooled diesel engine was developed under the designation V6 by halving the V12 engine from the T54/55. It develops 240 HP at 1,800 rpm, which gives it a road speed of 44 km/h and a range of 370 km to 400 km. The vehicle can cross 1.1 m high vertical obstacles and 2.8 m wide trenches and climb 52° gradients. The engine has a cooling system and an initial heater. The .76 has a 5-speed manual shaft-type transmission system similar to the one in the T-34/85. The gearbox has 4 forward gears and 1 reverse. The vehicle has a side clutch that enables it to make turns and a handbrake. The tank has 4 mounts for additional external fuel tanks at the rear of the hull. the two on the corners are for flat-type external tanks and the two in the center are for a drum type. These additional tanks increase the range from 370 km, 400 km to 480 km, 510 km. The .76 is a reliable, simple to operate and highly mobile reconnaissance vehicle and is ideally designed for amphibious operations, but it has many limitations as a fighting vehicle. Strategic. The .76 is amphibious. It has a flat, boat-shaped hull which is hermetical and ensures minimal resistance when the tank is afloat. It can swim after switching on the two electric bilge pumps, erecting the trim vane which improves the vehicle's stability and displacement in the water and prevents water from flooding into the bow of the tank. Switching the driver's periscope for a swimming periscope enables the driver to see over the trim vane. When not in use, the trim vane is stowed in the front of the bow over the barrel of the main gun and serves as additional armor. Bilge pumps keep the tank afloat even if it leaks or is damaged. There is a manual bilge pump for emergency use. The tank is propelled through the water by two hydrojets, one on each side of the hull, with the inlets underneath the hull and the outlets at the rear. There are also additional assistant water jet inlets on both sides of the hull over the last rode wheels. The rear outlets have lids that can be fully or partially closed, redirecting the water stream to the forward-directed outlets at the sides of the hull, thus enabling the vehicle to turn or go in reverse. To turn to the left, for example, the left water jet is covered. To turn to the right water jet is covered. To make a 180-degree turn, one water jet sucks in water while the other pushes it out. This system was designed by Nkono Wallo. It is the same system as the one used in the BTR-50 APC, which was based on the PT-76. The tank can swim at up to 10.2 km/h and has a range of 100 km. It can cross most water obstacles and can also swim in the sea. However, its amphibious design makes it disproportionately large for a vehicle of its weight and allows less armor protection than other light tanks. Equipment: the .76 is equipped with a tank communication device, a gyro compass, a 10RT-26E radio and has an antenna for it which extends itself when needed. It also has two headlights in front of the hull and a searchlight on the right-hand side of the top of the turret. It lagged behind other Soviet armored fighting vehicles because only the driver had a night vision device and also because it has no fire or NBC protection systems, which significantly reduced its effectiveness. The lack of NBC protection ended with the PT-76B, which has the PAZ NBC protection system. Because only the driver has night vision equipment, the crew has a vision range of 4,000 am by day and 600 am at night. Service history: about 5,000 .76s were built during the vehicle's lifetime, of which some 2,000 were exported. Over 25 countries employed the vehicle, including Afghanistan, Albania, Angola, China, Congo, Cuba, Egypt, Finland, Guinea, Hungary, India, Indonesia, Iraq, Laos, Madagascar, Mozambique, North Korea, Pakistan, Poland, North Vietnam, and Yugoslavia. The .76 was used as the standard reconnaissance tank of the Soviet Union and Warsaw Pact armies. It was also intended for water obstacle fording operations and naval infantry landings. It served in the reconnaissance subunits of tank divisions and mechanized divisions of the Red Army and Soviet Marines divisions. Although it has been replaced in frontline service by the BMP-1 and BRM-1, it may still be found in the reconnaissance companies and battalions of some motorized rifle and tank regiments and divisions, as well as in naval infantry units. Aside from its reconnaissance role, it is also used for crossing water obstacles in the first wave of an attack and for artillery support during the establishment of a beachhead. The main disadvantage of the BMP-1 and the BRM-1 when compared to the PT-76 is the absence of a powerful main armament. However, the BRM-1 is fitted with more modern reconnaissance equipment. Also, both vehicles have stronger front armor and superior mobility features, and the BMP-1 can carry up to 8 fully equipped soldiers inside. The .76 is still on active service in a number of countries, mainly in the Third World. The Russian army is reported to have used PT-76 units in the ongoing war in Chechnya. The .76 is used stationed by and following Russian units' bases: 61st Tank Repair Plant, 61st Kirkyneskaya Marine Brigade from Sputnik, which is part of the Murmansk Military District, 175th Marine Brigade from Tyumen, which is part of the Murmansk Military District, and 336th Belostokskaya Marine Brigade from Baltaysk, which is part of the Kaliningrad Military District. In Ludowodzko-Polski, PT-76s and PT-76Bs were used by the reconnaissance subunits of tank divisions and mechanized divisions and coastal defense units, including the 7th Lusacian Landing Division. Poland also operated Frog-5 lunar tactical missile launch vehicles. PT-76s were in service with the Indian Army, and they were in reserve status before they were withdrawn from service in 2009, after which they were used for target practice by the Army and as static memorials at various military facilities. Combat service, Vietnam War. PT-76s along with T-54s, T-55s, Type 59s and Type 62 tanks formed the bulk of the NVA armored forces. The first successful action of NVA armor in Vietnam was against the Lang Bay Special Forces camp on June 7, February 1968. 13.76s, of the NVA 202nd Armored Regiment spearheaded an assault against approximately 24 Green Berets and 500 irregulars. The defenders fought back with their 106mm M40 recoilless rifle, and ineffectively with M72 LAWs. They requested support from nearby Kisan, which was unable to help, as it too was under siege. The Lang Bay camp was overrun, with the PT-76s using their turret-mounted spotlight to machine gun any irregulars who panicked and ran out of the underground bunkers. A few survivors broke out and were airlifted to safety. The first tank-to-tank engagement occurred in mid-1968 when a U.S. reconnaissance airplane observed a .76 being washed by its crew in the Ba-en-Ha-Pound-I River in the DMZ. The Ford air control pilot radioed the tank's position to a nearby M48 Patton tank unit of the U.S. 3rd Marine Tank Battalion. With the FAC adjusting fire, the Patton fired 390 rounds, obtaining a hit with the third round. The tank crew abandoned their vehicle. Shortly afterward, some returning F-4 Phantom jet fighter bombers, with ordnance to expend, observed the PT-76 and bombed the remainder of the vehicle. Battle of Ben Het. Of the U.S. Army's 3 armor battalions in Vietnam, only the 1/69th engaged in a tank-to-tank duel. On March 3, 1969, the Special Forces camp at Ben Het was attacked by the NVA 202nd Armored Regiment. The 202nd was given the task of destroying the camp's 175mm self-propelled guns. One of the PT-76s had detonated a landmine, which not only alerted the camp, but also lit up the other PT-76s attacking the firebase. Flares had been sent up, thus exposing adversary tanks, but sighting in on muzzle flashes. One PT-76 scored a direct hit on the turret of an M48, killing 2 Patton crewmen and wounding 2 more. A second Patton, using the same technique, destroyed a .76 with their second shot. At daybreak, the battlefield revealed the wreckage of 2 PT-76s and 1 BTR-50 armored personnel carrier. First combat use of the TOW missile. On May 9, 1972, a .76 unwillingly participated in changing the story of armored warfare. On April 24, 1972, a U.S. Special Experimental UH-1B helicopter team, consisting of 2 helicopters mounting the new BGM-71 TOW anti-tank missile accompanied by technicians from Bell Helicopters and the Hughes Aircraft Corporation, arrived in Vietnam. The team, labeled the 1st Combat Aerial TOW Team, was deployed in the Central Highlands of Vietnam, where it commenced gunnery training. From May 2, the team made daily flights in search of enemy armor, with the missiles mounted in the XM-26 3-tube launcher. On May 9, NVA armored units attacked the Ranger camp at Ben Het. The TOW team destroyed 3 .76s and broke up the attack. On May 26, the North Vietnamese army made another attempt to retake the city of Con Tum. TOW aircraft were brought in at first light and found NVA tanks moving almost at will through portions of the city. Conventional airstrikes would have been risky for friendly forces, and the TOW proved to be ideal for picking off enemy tanks. At the end of the first day, the 2 TOW helicopters had destroyed 9 tanks and damaged 1 more. 4 destroyed and 1 damaged were PT-76s. Other combat: the .76 saw action with Indian forces in the Indo-Pakistani War of 1965 and 1971. Despite being obsolete by 1971, the superior tactics of the Indian Army enabled the PT-76 to play a vital role in the Eastern Theatre, where the PT-76s proved superior to the Pakistani M24 Chaffee light tanks despite being outnumbered. A good example of such an engagement was the Battle of Gharibpur, where an Indian Army infantry battalion with only 14 .76s was able to maul a much larger brigade-strength unit of Pakistani armour and inflict heavy casualties. The .76 also saw service in the Six-Day War, during which the Israeli army destroyed or captured few PT-76 tanks. During the Yom Kippur War in 1973, PT-76s were used during the crossing of the Great Bitter Lake by the Egyptian 130th Marines Brigade. Cuban and FAPLA units deployed PT-76s during the long-running Angolan Civil War. At least 1 fell victim to a Rape 90 armored car manned by South African troops during Operation Modular. During the Yugoslav Wars, the PT-76 served with the Yugoslav People's Army and later the Army of the Krajina Serbs in a few battles during the 10-day war in Slovenia and Croatian War of Independence. The Indonesian Navy used its PT-76Bs on the Indonesian island of Ambon during civil unrest from 2000 onwards. List of conflicts: 1959–1975 Vietnam War, 1965 Indo-Pakistani War, 1966–1990 South African Border War, 1967 Six-Day War, 1968 Warsaw Pact invasion of Czechoslovakia, 1971 Indo-Pakistani War, 1973 Yom Kippur War, 1975 Operation Saroja, 1975 2002 Angolan Civil War, 1990 1991 First Persian Gulf War, 1991 2001 Yugoslav Wars, 1991 10-Day War, 1991 1995 Croatian War of Independence, 1992 1995 Bosnian War, 1999 Second Chechen War, 2000 Civil unrest on the Indonesian island of Ambon, 2000 2003 Indonesian military operation against the insurgency in Aceh, 2003 Second Persian Gulf War, 2003 Invasion of Iraq. Variants: Soviet Union. PT-76, an original PT-76 armed with the D-56 T-76.2 unrifled tank gun. It was produced between 1951 and 1957. PT-76.76 armed with the D-56 TM-76.2 unrifled tank gun and a height of the hull was increased by 13 cm. It has night vision driver device TVN2B, new headlamps, a newer 113 radio instead of the old 10RT26E set and TDA thermo smoke generating system. It also has a spotlight fitted to a bracket on the right-hand edge of the turret roof. PT-76B, PT-76 armed with the D-56 TS-76.2 unrifled tank gun, the PAZ-NBC protection system, an automatic fire extinguishing system, improved TSHK-2-66 sight, a filtration ventilation system, improved observation devices, improved electric equipment, a new V6B6 cylinder 4-stroke inline water-cooled diesel engine developing 263 HP at 1800 RPM and additional internal fuel tanks for which the shape of the armor had to be slightly changed. These additional internal fuel tanks increased the fuel capacity from 250 L to 400 L. The new engine is the same as that used in one bank of that fitted to the T-54. With the new engine and additional fuel tanks, the range of the vehicle has been increased to 480 km on the road, and 120 km on the water. The 76.2 LMD-56TS rifled tank gun can fire a new undercaliber AP projectile piercing up to 75 mm at 60 degrees from 2,000 meters. One such round has been added to a .76B typical ammunition load, and so it can now carry 41 rounds. It was produced between 1959 and 1967. PT-71 is a .76B fitted with 9 M14 Malyutka anti-tank guided missile pack mounted on the rear of the turret. It didn't reach operational stage, and the name is not official. PT-76A, a designator for different PT-76 and PT-76B models armed with the DSHK 1938/46 12.70 anti-aircraft heavy machine gun on a rotatable mount on top of the turret. PT-76K, command version with an additional antenna on the right-hand side of the turret and a generator at the rear of the deck. PT-76M, PT-76 with improved amphibious features thanks to slightly larger displacement. This variant was developed for the Russian Naval Marines but was not adopted because it did not have improved combat features. Instead, the Marines adopted the PT-76B. PT-85, a .76 with a cast turret and an 85 mm gun. It was used during the invasion of Czechoslovakia. PT-85, based on the chassis of the PT-76, armed with 85 mm D-58 tank gun, two prototypes were built. PT-90, based on the chassis of the PT-76, armed with 90 mm D-62 tank gun, only at technical design stage. Obiekt 280 .76 fitted with a 16x130mm multi-barrel rocket launcher. PT-76 RKH, PT-76 converted to a light amphibious NBC reconnaissance tank. It has a dome cupola and a flag marker at the rear. BTR-50P, amphibious tracked APC, based on the chassis of the PT-76. Obiekt 911, experimental IFE, developed by the Gavilov Design Bureau. The OB 911 had a tracked suspension but additionally 4 retractable wheels under the hull. The performance advantages of this wheel-cum-track design didn't prove themselves and was deemed too complex. Obiekt 914, experimental IFV. This vehicle was developed in the early 1960s by a design team led by I.V. Gavilov at the Volgograd Tractor Works, and the prototype was ready for trials in 1964. The OB 914 was armed with two 7.62 mm PKT general-purpose machine guns mounted in the hull on either side of the driver. It had a crew of 2 and could transport up to 8 fully equipped soldiers. Its combat weight was 14.4 tons. After a series of trials in 1964, the OB 765 was selected to become the BMP-1 due mostly to the rear engine design, which obliged the infantry to mount and dismount through the single door in the rear of the right-hand side of the vehicle and roof hatches. It was also felt that the OB 765 had a better overall layout. ASU-85, airborne assault gun that uses components of the PT-76. SPU-2P2, launch vehicle of the Tactical Missile System 2K1 Mars. TZM-2P3, transloader vehicle of the Tactical Missile System 2K1 Mars. SPU-2P16, launch vehicle of the Tactical Missile System 2K6 Lunar. TZM-2P17, transloader vehicle of the Tactical Missile System 2K6 Lunar. This was only a prototype. GM568, chassis used for the 1S-91 guidance vehicle of 2K12 Cub surface-to-air missile system. It uses some elements from the PT-76 including the drivetrain and wheels. It is nearly identical to the GM578 chassis. GM575, chassis used for the ZSU-23-4 self-propelled anti-aircraft gun. It uses a number of components from PT-76. GM578, chassis used for the 2P25 launch vehicle 2K12 Cub surface-to-air missile system. It uses some elements from the PT-76 including the drivetrain and wheels. It is nearly identical to the GM568 chassis. GSP or GSP-55, This is a tracked self-propelled amphibious ferry. It consists of two non-interchangeable left and right half units with large outer pontoons. The units use many components of the PT-76, for instance parts of the suspension, the engine, the electrical system and the steering system. A GSP ferry could carry up to 52 tons and had a speed of 6 km/h. Belarus .76M, an upgraded PT-76 with a UTD-20 engine developing 300 HP, new steering and brake systems, designed by Minuta Service in Minsk. A similar upgrade exists for the BTR-50 series. People's Republic of China, Type 60. The Chinese obtained a few PT-76s in the mid-1950s. In October 1958, the People's Liberation Army decided to develop an indigenous amphibious tank based on the PT-76. The development program was carried out by 201 Institute and 615 Factory. A prototype known as the WZ-221 was built and tested in 1959. But the design suffered from a number of problems including engine overheating. The PLA wasn't satisfied with the performance of the vehicle, which led to the development of a new vehicle based on the Type 60, Type 63 amphibious light tank. Czechoslovakia. OT-62 TOPAS, a series of BTR-50 variants developed jointly by Poland and Czechoslovakia. They are similar to the BTR-50 PK but have hatches in the hull sides, a more powerful PV6 engine of 300 HP in two projecting bays like the BTR-50 PU. 1. East Germany, K1, command tank based on PT-76 Model 2s and PT-76BS. It is equipped with an extra R112 radio. Indonesia .76, M, fitted with Cockerell Mk3 MA 290mm gun, a larger gunner's sight and a new diesel engine. This is the upgrade package from Nimda, Israel. Tapir, at least one PT-76 was modified with the 17-tube 140mm rocket launcher of the BM-14-17 instead of the turret. Israel .71, is a Pint-76 upgrade built by Nimda Group Limited, which includes a 90-ohm Cockerell tank gun, a new machine gun, a new fire control system, a laser rangefinder, night vision devices and a 300 HP diesel engine. The only known customers were the Israeli and Indonesian armies. 2. North Korea. .85, North Korea developed their own vehicle based partly on the PT-76. Poland. .76 with additional 12.7 ohm DSHK 1938/46 anti-aircraft heavy machine gun on a rotatable mount and separate hatches for the commander and loader. PT-76 with additional periscopes fitted on the right of the turret roof. PT-76 without the muzzle brake. PT-76B with additional 12.7 ohm DSHK 1938/46 anti-aircraft heavy machine gun on a rotatable mount and separate hatches for commander and loader. OT-62 TOPAS, series of BTR-50 variants developed jointly by Poland and Czechoslovakia. They are similar to the BTR-50 PK but have hatches in the hull sides, a more powerful PV6 engine with 300 HP in two projecting bays like the BTR-50 PU. 3. WPT-76, Frog Launch Vehicle 2P-16 converted into a technical support vehicle. Russia. .76B fitted with a new V6M diesel engine developing 300 HP which increased the maximum road speed from 44 km/h to 45 km/h and the maximum swimming speed from 10.2 km/h to 11.2 km/h. This increased the power-to-weight ratio from 17.1 horsepower per ton to 19.5 horsepower per ton. PT-76E. This is the most recent PT-76 modernization program. It increases the vehicle's battle efficiency by including a radical growth in firepower, which required a new turret AU-220M and other weapons. This variant is armed with a 57-ohm autocannon. Its armor-piercing tracer rounds fired from 1120M can penetrate 100 ohm of steel armor. The new weapon can destroy most modern APCs and IFVs. It can also engage aerial targets out to 6 km. The autocannon uses two types of ammunition, splinter tracer and armor-piercing tracer. However, it is possible to fire a special zenith shell. The gun can fire single shots, short bursts, or long bursts. It can also fire continuously up to 120 rounds per minute. This system functions by using the energy generated by each round, not by using an external power source. Firepower is improved 5.5 times in the PT-76E over the PT-76B. The .76E is fitted with a more powerful UTD 26-cylinder 4-stroke V-shaped airless injection water-cooled multi-fuel 15.8-liter diesel engine. It develops 300 HP at 2,600 RPM and is taken from the BMP-1 as is the transmission. The power-to-weight ratio has been improved to 20 horsepower per ton. This also increases the maximum road speed from 44 km per hour to 60 km per hour, with an average cross-country speed from 32 km per hour to 42 km per hour. Other engine options are the UTD-23 or V6BF. The vehicle has new tracks. Driver fatigue has been reduced. The vehicle's survivability on the battlefield is improved with the introduction of a new fast-acting firefighting system. The vehicle also has improvements in fire control and optical equipment, for instance the new Sights 1P67 and Liga S. This modernization program increases the PT-76's performance by 2.7 times, which is still comparatively low. The vehicle was accepted by the Russian Marines in 2006 and about 40 or 50 vehicles were ordered. United States of America. The .76 was used by the U.S. Army for OPFOR training. They were modified in a number of ways including the replacement of the engine with a Caterpillar diesel engine, changing the turret hatch to a rear-hinged arrangement and the fitting of U.S. radios and antennae mounts. Due to the new engine's different exhaust arrangements, the exhausts were rerouted to use the water jet ports rather than the original engine exhaust. Vietnam .76 fitted with an anti-aircraft machine gun on top of the turret. Operators, Afghanistan, 50 ordered in 1958 from the Soviet Union and delivered between 1959 and 1961. 60 in service in 1996. Angola, 68 ordered in 1975 from the Soviet Union and delivered in 1975. 12 were in service in 1996 and are currently in service. Benin, 20 ordered in 1981 from the Soviet Union and delivered in 1982. 20 in service in 1996. Cambodia, 10 ordered in 1983 from the Soviet Union and delivered in 1983. 10 ordered in 1988 from the Soviet Union and delivered in 1989 as aid. Republic of the Congo, 3 ordered in 1971 from the Soviet Union and delivered in 1972. Cuba, 60 bought in 1970 from the Soviet Union and delivered between 1971 and 1973. 50 in service with the Marines in 1996. Of the 60, 6 were destroyed in the Angolan War and 4 were sunk to create artificial reefs. Egypt, 50 ordered in 1965 from the Soviet Union and delivered in 1966. 200 ordered in 1970 from the Soviet Union and delivered between 1970 and 1972. Guinea, 20 ordered in 1977 from the Soviet Union and delivered in 1977. 18 in service in 1996. Guinea-Bissau, 20 ordered in 1977 from the Soviet Union and delivered in 1978. Hungary, 100 ordered in 1957 from the Soviet Union and delivered between 1959 and 1960. Indonesia, used by the Marine Corps. 50 Pints-76 BS ordered in 1962 from the Soviet Union and delivered in 1964. 60 Pints-76 BS were in service in 1996. At the peak there were 170 Pints-76 BS in service. Currently 30 Pints-76 BS are in service. Laos, 30 were in service in 1996. Currently 25 are in service. Madagascar, 12 ordered in 1983 from the Soviet Union and delivered in 1983. Currently 32 are in service. Mali, 1 battalion armed with PT-76s and Type 62s. Mozambique, 16, and Nicaragua, 22 ordered in 1983 from the Soviet Union and delivered in 1984. Currently 10 are in service. North Korea, 100 ordered in 1965 from the Soviet Union and delivered between 1966 and 1967. 100 in service in 1985, 600 in 1990, 550 in 1995, 300 in 1996, 550 in 2000, 400 in 2002 and 560 in 2005. North Korea also operates a number of indigenous PT-85 amphibious light tanks. Pakistan, 32 ordered in 1968 from Indonesia and delivered between 1969 and 1970. Russia, 200 in service in 1995, 150 in 2000, 2003, 2005 and 2008. In 2012 there were 30 Pints-76s in service with the naval infantry. Syria, 80 ordered in 1971 from the Soviet Union and delivered between 1972 and 1973. 100 in service in 1996. Uganda, 50 ordered in 1973 from the Soviet Union and delivered between 1974 and 1975. Currently 20 are in service. Vietnam, 500 were in service in 1996. Currently 300 are in service. Vietnam also operates a number of North Korean .85s. Zambia, 50 ordered in 1983 from the Soviet Union and delivered in 1984. Currently 30 are in service. Former. Belarus, 8 in service in 1995 and none in 2000. Bulgaria, 250 ordered in 1959 from the Soviet Union and delivered between 1960 and 1964. Withdrawn from service. Croatia, 1 in service in 1998 and 9 in 2003. All were captured from JNA. Scrapped. Finland, 15 ordered in 1960 from the Soviet Union and delivered in 1961. East Germany, 170 ordered in 1956 from the Soviet Union and delivered between 1957 and 1959. PT-76 Model 2 and PT-76B, passed on to the unified German state. West Germany, Germany, PT-76 Model 2 and PT-76B, taken from the GDR's army. All were scrapped or sold to other countries. India, 178 ordered in 1962 from the Soviet Union and delivered between 1964 and 1965. 100 in service in 1990 and 1995, 90 in service in 1996, around 90 in 2000, 2002 and 2005 and around 100 in 2008. Retired in 2009. Iraq, 45 ordered in 1967 from the Soviet Union and delivered between 1968 and 1970. 200 ordered in 1983 from the Soviet Union and delivered in 1984. 100 in service in 1990, 1995, 2000 and 2002. All destroyed or scrapped. A People's Republic of China designed a copy of the PT-76, known as the Type 60, but it proved to be unsatisfactory and was replaced by a Chinese design, the Type 63. Poland, 300 ordered in 1955 from the Soviet Union and delivered between 1957 and 1958. 30 in service in 1996. Poland operated both PT-76 Model 2 and PT-76B. They served with the reconnaissance subunits of tank divisions and mechanized divisions of coastal defense units including the 7th Luization Landing Division. Poland also used the Frog 5 lunar tactical missile launch vehicle. Some of them were converted into WPT-76 ARVs. All .76s and vehicles based on it were withdrawn from service. Soviet Union, about 12,000 produced. 1,000 in service in 1990. About 1,113 were in Soviet Union during the breakup of the USSR. They were passed on to successor states. A Ukraine, 50 were originally inherited from the former Soviet Union. 5 in service in 1995 and none in 2000. A United States, the U.S. Army used a number of PT-76s in the OPFOR role for training. A North Vietnam, 150 ordered in 1964 from the Soviet Union and delivered between 1959 and 1960. 100 ordered in 1971 from the Soviet Union and delivered between 1971 and 1972. Passed on to the unified Vietnam state. A Yugoslavia, 100 ordered in 1962 from the Soviet Union and delivered 1963. Evaluation only, a Czechoslovakia, bought and evaluated one example, but declined acceptance. See also M551 Sheridan, U.S. light tank of the Cold War. Notes. References, Beryatinsky, Mikhail. Plavayushchiy Tank PT-76, Bronya Kolekcja Series, Special Issue 1, 5/2004, Dunstan, Simon. Vietnam Tracks Armor in Battle. 1982 edition. Osprey Publishing. ISBN 0-89141-171-2. Starry, Don A. General. Mounted Combat in Vietnam. Vietnam Studies. Department of the Army. First printed 1978 CMH 90-17. Stockwell, David B. Tanks in the Wire. Account of the Battle of the U.S. Special Forces Camp at Lang Bay in 1968. ISBN 0-515-10333-0. External links, PT-76 at FAS.org, PT-76 walkarounds, PT-76 light tank at anemaforces.com, PT-76 description and photo gallery at armoredviv2ru, PT-76 Model 2 at battlertanks.com, Chinese Type 63 at sindefense.com, Cuban .76.